One. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So, today I am joined by Kate and of Glowfrog Games, and we are going to be talking about her upcoming game pieced together. Hello, Kate.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So, but before we actually talk about the game, we are going to be playing the guessing game I play with all of the guests on the show. We are going to be playing a rousing game of Yu-Gi-Oh or Dark Souls. Because if there's one thing those two franchises have in common, it is that it is full of monsters that have names that sound like if you took a Lord of the Rings book and melted it. So basically, how it goes is I'm going to name three monsters with names that don't sound like words in any language, and you will guess if it is either from Yu Gi Oh!, the What If Every Life Problem Could Be Solved with Card Games, the anime, or Dark Souls. What if every life problem could be solved just by stabbing it with a sword real good? So, let's see. The first one. Let's see. So, the first guess of the game, Kate. Uh, the Old Iron King. Yu Gi Oh! Or Dark Souls?
I'm gonna go with Dark Souls.
That is correct. It is a boss from Dark Souls 2. And looking at the screenshot, boys, it's scary.
It sounded very menacing.
Let's see. Next. Let's see which one has weird enough name. Alright, next up is Shadow Vampire. Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Dark Souls?
I think I'll go Dark Souls again. It sounds another quite creepy one.
Incorrect. It
Oh.
is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster. Because if you can just think of anything that exists in life, and there's a good chance the Yu-Gi-Oh! People have made a card of it. Let's and the last one. Let's see, what's a name that doesn't exist? Let's see. No, that one's too easy. Alright, Sin the Slumbering Dragon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Dark Souls?
Hmm. I'll guess Yu-Gi-Oh! This time.
Incorrect. There's another boss
Oh.
from Dark Souls 2. And that brings us to the end. And yeah, now we can get right to the meat and potatoes of this. So we'll start this off with Kate. If you could, introduce yourself a bit more to my 10 viewer at home.
Sure, so I'm Kate. I am a game designer and a company founder at Glowfrog Games. Glowfrog Games, I started it, I think, nearly 2 years ago now, which seems crazy to say. And yeah, we're working on our first project called Piece Together, which is a cozy scrapbooking game. We have had a demo out, which has not been on Steam yet, but has been at a whole load of different events, at different showcases. And yeah, we're hoping, obviously, to release it at some point.
Okay, and Kate, when did you first discover video games as either like an entertainment product?
Oh, I mean, I've been playing games since I was really young. I used to play with my dad mainly. I think he used to play, he had a computer with DOS games like, I don't know, Galaxian and, old school games, probably when I was like 5 or 6. I think I remember sitting on his knee and playing those games with him. And then, yeah, I kind of played games all through my childhood. I got I used to play quite a few Nintendo games with my sister, and we sort of get the whole family around and play Mario Kart and Zelda and stuff like that. So yeah, I can't really put a starting point on it, but definitely been gaming my whole life.
Okay, and what would you say is your favorite game and or games growing up?
I mean, I definitely played a lot of Pokemon on the Game Boy,
Mm-hmm.
the first generation. I don't like to say that too much because I don't play Pokemon anymore, and it just makes me sound really old. But I do only know the like original 150, and I've not kept up with it at all. But that was quite an obsession for me when I was about 10. And yeah, Zelda Ocarina of Time was definitely another big influence. And then kind of like 90s platformers like Crash Bandicoot. I played loads of Tony Hawk as well. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kind of mixed, but definitely yeah, bit of a variety, I guess.
Okay, and what would you say is your favorite game and or games now?
These days, I definitely, one, I like to play more cozy games. I don't know if it's just because as you get older, I feel like stressful. So much as I'm sure I would still enjoy playing more combat and action games if I sort of put the time into it. But because I don't spend that much of my time gaming these days, just because I'm so busy doing other stuff, I do quite like games that either they're quite chill and I feel like I'm not gonna spend hours and then, not get anywhere because I'm not very good at it. Or just indie games that like short games, games that you can complete in one or two settings. So I've definitely gone a lot that way as I've got older into just the more relaxing type of games. Yeah, so like I played loads of Stardew Valley, I played loads of Animal Crossing. Recently, I've been playing shorter indie games on my backlog. Like I just completed Toem a couple of weeks ago, and Thank Goodness You're Here, and that kind of thing. That yeah, you can kind of just get it done in a weekend and it feels like really satisfying.
Okay. So, Kate, if we were at some sort of gaming convention and Glowfrog Games had a booth and they were walking by and they saw like the banner for Pieced Together, what would be the sort of elevator pitch you would give to like any passersby?
So Piece Together is a cozy scrapbooking game. It's very like gentle, relaxing puzzle game with a lot of tactile interactions. So you're sorting through these mementos that belong to the protagonist, Connie, and you solve little puzzles to figure out where everything goes in the scrapbook. And then as you go through it, you're discovering her story, and it's very much a story about kind of looking back and getting older, and especially reflecting on a friendship that she had from childhood. So yeah, it's like a combination of that relaxing gameplay, but also quite an emotional and like nostalgic, bittersweet kind of story behind it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you said that like this current point in your life, you're more drawn to like cozy games or games that you can like get done quicker. Did like that train of thought influence making Piece Together, or is making Piece Together, as you said, just a sort of cozy, a day in the life of a person type of game? Was that like, did you have that idea in your head from the beginning before you started like becoming real fond of like cozier games?
So actually, when we started the game, it wasn't that cozy. It was cozy, but it was really depressing. So it wasn't a game about friendship, and it didn't have the kind of well, we haven't really developed the vibes for it. So it started with just like a little mechanic and a bit of a prototype around sorting and sticking items into a book. And the early ideas that we had for the game were more to do with memory loss and maybe like someone dealing with dementia or something like that. And it was to do with kind of choosing what memories would the character would hold on to and which ones they might let go of. So yeah, we kind of felt like it was quite powerful, but also the more we thought about it, I thought I don't really want to work on a game this sad for another couple of years. And also much that although I appreciate emotional experiences and games bringing you things that might be more challenging, I think ultimately that didn't feel like the type of thing that we wanted to make and the type of thing that necessarily that many people want. I think it feels a little bit niche going down that route. So we decided we wanted to go for a bit more of a cozy and it can still have those elements that maybe make you sad and make you think about friendships that might not be in your life anymore, but wrapping it in a way that was much more like overall it's cozy and nice and heartwarming rather than existential crisis kind of territory.
Mm-hmm. Um. So I'm looking at the trailer and the screenshots and the Steam page, and there's like a little like actual scrapbooking. Like, where did the idea to make it like an actual to have the game like the game story be told like actual scrapbook pieces? Like, are you like do you are you like a scrapbooker in that way, or does anyone else who's working on the game with you is, or did that idea just like come about out of nowhere?
It was kind of a mix. I didn't set out to think I'm going to make a game about my scrapbook, but I had been making a scrapbook. So during the pandemic, I went through this period where I left my full-time job. I ended up moving cities. I moved in with my partner in like a whole new city.
Mm-hmm.
Locked indoors, no job, didn't know anybody. I was like quite anxious and a bit depressed, didn't really know what to do with myself. And because we'd moved, I had these boxes of stuff that I'd sort of collected from my parents' house that they're like, we've had these boxes for years, we don't want them anymore. And I needed to do something with them. And I think when I was younger, I was a bit of a hoarder. So I had all these boxes of mementos, every time I had a ticket for a plane or like class notes, things between me and my friends, I just sort of shoved them all in a drawer and eventually a box, and just never looked at it again. So I did start scrapbooking in the pandemic, and I found it a really good way, one, to just like save space and put kind of curate those memories from something that was just random mess into something that kind of told my story and had gave me an item that I could look back on and kind of yeah, reminisce about those things rather than it just feeling like junk that's taking up space in my house. And it did really help with anxiety because it is a really relaxing and quite therapeutic activity to do. So I think that was in the back of my mind when we came to do the prototype. But the prototype, also the program I was working with at the time, had an idea about just wanting to make order out of mess and sorting through things. So yeah, it sort of just things converged, as they tend to do. I think in game design, they sort of converged on this idea that the more time's gone on, the more it does feel like it's reflecting my own experiences, but it didn't start out that way.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, again, I'm noticing through like the Steam page that the two best friends, like the characters themselves, like in these pictures, they're sort of like the backgrounds are like colored in, but the characters themselves are like papery white. Was that was that like a stylistic choice that you had since you started working on the game, or was or did that like come out of like necessity just because of like what like engine you're making the game with?
It was a mix. We did I like working with an artist who's a good friend of mine, and we did exploration of the style. I guess we wanted something that felt like it's hand drawn and handmade and kind of fits in with the scrapbooking aesthetic without being like it's really cartoony. And obviously we're a small team. We can't do uh, we don't have the scope to do really like realistic or detailed artwork, and especially bringing in a bit of animation here and there. So it was kind of a bit of both. Like we liked the way it looked, and we felt that it was quite distinctive, and it kind of highlighted the characters against the backgrounds. But also on a practical level, something that's if we need to draw, 100 photos to go in the scrapbook, it's not going to be too crazy for our small team to do it.
Okay, and uh, um, I mean, are there any other are there any like other types of like cozy games, like for example, like unpacking, any sort of like games like that that gave you the idea on how to make piece together?
Yeah, so we do get compared to unpacking a lot. Obviously, I understand you're kind of like sorting through items and you're discovering someone's life through their possessions. I think we wanted to branch off, from being too close to what they do. And I think that we offer something that's quite unique in terms of the story and how the story's explored, and it's a lot more detailed. Like unpacking, you get these kind of key moments through someone's life, but yeah, the story we're telling hopefully gives them maybe a more kind of connected emotional experience.
Mm-hmm.
Other games that have influenced it, I would definitely say Florence. If you've played that, it's a few years old now, but it's quite a short game that was on mobile that's kind of like an interactive graphic novel telling a story of a woman and like a relationship. I really enjoyed that game, and it still makes me cry if I play it. It's less than an hour long, but something about the way they sort of connected interaction design and like the emotions through the story, I just thought was really good, and the story just felt like so relatable to me. I think that's why it really hit home, and I think that's what we see happening with Piece Together. Whenever we go showcases, we get a lot of people who play it, then come and say to us, "Oh, this reminds me so much of X or Y friend from my childhood, and his this thing that happened," and finding it quite emotional. So, yeah, I think in terms of emotional storytelling in games, I'd say Florence is a big influence. And then there's other things like Sticky Business that are dealing more with the kind of tactile, papery themes as well. So, yeah, kind of combining all those different bits.
Okay. And although it doesn't have a concrete release date yet, like assuming everything like proceeds as it should, like how long, what is like the total amount of time from like idea to finished product that you think it will have taken?
So we started the very first prototype in, I would say, April 2 years ago. So it's been nearly 2 years. And then I'm hoping we can ship it by the end of this year, early next year. So that would be, I guess, just under 3 years in total, with the caveat that, yeah, we've been working other jobs. There were quite long periods of time that we just weren't doing any development on the game. So I feel like emotionally it hasn't taken 3 full years of my life, but yeah, it took a while to get going in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And mm, um, like I know you mentioned how you scrapbooked as like a way to like just cope with the pandemic being all pandemicy. Are there any aspects of the game? Because again looking at like the screenshot and the bits and bops, and there's like fictional receipts to places and other things like. Did any other like members of your team like I don't know contribute to like how this was going to go, like instead of just being like pictures, it's just like it's like of key moments, it's like pictures of key moments and just like stickers and like little and like receipts of places the characters have gone to, like are there, what I'm trying to say is like are there any other sort of like experiences from your life or the team's life that you've drawn on to help make this just from like a like a photo album book to like a photo album slash scrapbook game?
Yeah, so I've been quite keen to not rely too much on the photos,
Mm-hmm.
which is difficult because obviously those are the things that tend to give you the most sort of emotional connection with the characters. So we are including them, but I really wanted it to be through these other little pieces of things that you collect through your life. So yeah, it's ended up being kind of a mix of those things. I think there's some items that are very similar to some of the things in my scrapbook. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's like notes passed to each other in class, which I was really bad for when I was in secondary school with my best friend. We were always writing notes, like usually, what boys you fancy, and um, gossiping about the other um, yeah, it's kind of the only thing that I ever really got told off for in school was passing notes. So that's definitely made its way into the scrapbook. And yeah, into like the story feels like it's got a little bit of all of the team members in now.
Hmm.
The so the artist Ellie, who I've known for a little while, she's been working most closely with me for the longest on the project. And there's definitely it's been really interesting because it's brought a lot of conversations up where we talk about what type of friend we are and sort of our different experiences, and you can definitely see bits of each of us in the characters, and like we've got one character that I think I most like and one that she's most like, and we didn't set it up that way, but I think it's just yeah, maybe that's what happens when you kind of collaborate for a while on this type of thing. You know, you can see everybody's personalities getting in there, and also all the little cat doodles are usually Ellie's fault. And yeah, we've also been working with a writer um, for the last 6 months who's been helping us kind of develop the story as well. So yeah, it's a mix of perspectives, but there's some kind of general themes, but also very specific details that you can kind of connect quite directly to different team members' kind of autobiography.
Okay. And like one of the tags like in the piece together Steam page is puzzle. Like I know the game is gonna be like mostly just telling the story of these two from like childhood to adulthood, but like is there going to be like more traditional like video gamey puzzles like when the game comes out, or is someone gonna try and sort like a particular photo with like a particular like I don't know string of dialogue about the event or something similar?
Yeah, so in the we've showcased so far, there's a couple of different types of puzzle. The kind of main puzzle that you'll see repeated a lot is the sorting. So you open each page, and each page has like a theme or key item, and you're picking which items from your mess of different things should go on that page. And then there's other things that get layered in, like maybe something more like a jigsaw or a bit of a logic puzzle. Um, yeah, so we're trying to keep it quite varied as you go through. I wouldn't say it's like really deep on puzzle mechanics. So if you love really difficult puzzles and kind of brain teasers, maybe it's not going to be the experience you're after. But if you want something that's kind of gentle and satisfying, and yeah, as much about the story as it is about the puzzling, that's kind of where we're aiming.
Okay. And when the game is like more closer to like its release date, are there any sort of platforms you and the team are particularly keen to getting pieced together on?
Yeah, I mean, we're mainly focusing on PC. As I said, we're a small team. I would love to get it on Switch because I love playing my Switch. I know cozy gamers love Switch.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to see if that's if that's possible. It kind of depends if we, um, yeah, are able to like get the funds to do that. Yeah, otherwise I'm not sure. I think those are the two main platforms. We did start off also making mobile version of it, and we had kind of some early mobile demos. I think for now we're not really focusing on that. It's very difficult to release mobile games successfully these days. I've spent a lot of time working in mobile, so I'm a little bit skeptical about it. So yeah, I think we'll focus on PC for now and kind of see what other opportunities arise.
Okay. And like I know this game like is still being worked on, but in the future, do you think like with nothing being certain, do you think Glowfrog Games will like stick to like cozy little puzzle light games like this, or do you like anticipate like spinning off into like other genres as you move forward?
I think I wouldn't necessarily say we would be constrained to puzzles because I mean like I love adventure games, you know, and other types of games as well that I'd be interested to explore. Um, but I think we probably would stay under the umbrella of cozy just because it's, you know, it's sort of what brought me and Ellie together as we have a shared love of cozy games, and it's just kind of, as I say, where my main interest is in gaming at the moment. But you never know. You know, I think with game design, you never quite know what idea is going to happen next. So if
Mm-hmm.
we came up with something that was really compelling, that was totally different, maybe, I don't know. It might be a bit of a jump if we suddenly start doing horror games. Unless it was like cozy, cute horror. That could work. I don't know. I think we do want to have, like a consistent vibe, and I think vibes are like making those cozy and emotional vibes is like our biggest strength as a team at the moment. So I think we'll probably, keep playing to our strengths in that sense.
Okay. And, for clarification, I am not a game developer. I don't know, like, the more, like, I don't know technical stuff on, like, what you and the team do in, like, the day to day, but is there, like, while working on Piece Together, is there, like, an aspect of, like just building the game, like, bit by bit that, like, you did not anticipate being, like, as much of a hurdle as it has been, or has it been, like, a relatively smooth, like, process throughout so far?
It has not been that smooth. It's yeah, it's been a journey. I mean, so I started the project originally with another programmer, and she built the demo, and we spent probably over a year working on it together, and then we ended up going separate ways. So I actually recently got a grant. We've had a few grants that have helped us with the game development, and hired another programmer for a few months, and we did a lot of essentially refactoring and um, kind of reapproaching how the code was built. So yeah, I think it's surprised me, I guess, a little bit because on the surface it seems so simple. You're like, I'm just moving 2D items around. I'm sticking them in a scrapbook. How hard can it be? But of course, nothing's ever that straightforward in games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and when I got to collaborate really closely with the programmers, I start to realize why what I'm asking for is actually quite I don't know, quite complicated, the way that we've set up the puzzle system. And yeah, but we're in a really good place now to kind of crack on with getting things into the game. So it's gone really well. It's been a lot of unexpected turns on the way. And I think another big challenge has been narrative because I haven't really worked on a lot of narrative games in the past, and we didn't have a narrative designer early on. We sort of would get people to come and help us when we got some grant money, but until we got this right on in the last few months, we didn't have someone who was really able to like grab the sort of narrative vision for the project. So yeah, that's it's been hard for me to know how to approach marrying like narrative and gameplay together, and what order should we
Mm-hmm.
figure out the whole story and then the game design, or vice versa. And it's a lot of push and pull. I still don't quite know that we've got it all figured out, but that's been really interesting, and hopefully we've had a lot of learnings on this project that if we did make another really narrative focused game in future, hopefully it would be a little bit smoother. But I tend to feel very confident one day about an aspect of the story, come back and look at it a week later and suddenly be like, I don't know if this works at all. But I think that's a bit of a just an outcome of being a little inexperienced on the narrative side.
Okay. And what sort of advice would you give to, like, an indie developer who is, like, just getting started that you wish, like, you had when you were first starting out?
Hmm, it's so tricky. I mean, I think the just keep making the game. It sounds so obvious, but I think one thing I did last year was we was not doing that much development because I was working more on the business side of things,
Mm-hmm.
which had some successes and some failures. But ultimately, I think the the amount that I paused working on it to do that stuff probably wasn't best decision, because it's a really tough time to get any sort of funding at the moment in games. I'm sure the games industry is having a lot of challenges in that regard. So yeah, I think if you can find ways to just make stuff, keep it small, um, then yeah, you'll be in a good position.
Okay. So, um, Yeah, I think with that in mind, we can begin wrapping up this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast. I would like to thank Kate from Glowfrog Games for joining me and talking about this upcoming game of hers. And, Kate, if someone would be interested in, like, keeping an eye on this particular project, where would you recommend they do that?
So you can wishlist us on Steam. Just search Piece Together. You can also find Glowfrog Games on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not really posting on Twitter anymore, but yeah, we've recently set up a Discord as well to try and start building our community. We'll be running playtests in there, looking for feedback as well. So if you like the look of the game, if you maybe want to have a chance to play the demo or prototype before anyone else, yeah, I think I posted that on Blue Sky, or you can always just contact me somehow.
Okay, and you heard it here, and like after you're done wishlisting, piece together, and keeping an eye on Glowfrog Games and everything it's working on, if you have some spare time after that, you can follow me on the Blue Skies at Big Debbie. If you enjoyed hearing me talk to Kate about her upcoming game, you can like and subscribe on the YouTube so that, I can, instead of 10 of viewer, I can maybe have 11s of viewer. And yeah, if for some reason you have any spare monies, you can go to patreon.com/the Pumpkin Coptercast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can submit questions for me to use in future interviews. And yeah, that is it for this particular episode of the Pumpkin Coptercast. And as I say at the end of every episode, have a gourd day, everyone.